Hey everyone, I'm Erin, and this is the Cardboard Republic. We are coming to you right now with a haul video for the month of May. So we're going to tell you all about the games that we got in over the course of May. The first chunk of these are games that Ryan got at the Granite Game Summit, which is a first year, brand new little convention run out of Nashua, New Hampshire. It was really fun, and Ryan came home with like way more games than he left with, so that's always a thing that happens no matter where we go. He got some in an auction, so that's cool, and he got some in a math trade. And math trades are really confusing, to me at least, and to many other people I know, because everyone's like, what's a math trade? So in a math trade, you upload a list of the games that you have to trade, and a whole bunch of other people do the same. Then you all go in and look at everyone's lists and pick out the games that you would like to get. You plug all of that into a computer, and it can create this multi-person trade system. So you might give a game to this other guy who gets a game from this other person who gives a game to you, and it can be like a bunch of people trading, but you all get something you want, and the computer does all the hard stuff for you. So that's a math trade. And now let's get started looking at the games we got. First up, we have Nefarious. In this game, you are playing as a mad scientist, and you're trying to beat out all of the other mad scientists for control of the planet. To do that, you have to put out minions, get these schematics for totally 100% responsible inventions. You have to build those inventions. And the first player to get 20 invention points, as well as more invention points than all of the other mad scientists, because there can be no ties in mad science, is the winner. I love mad science, so I'm really excited to try this one, and we'll see how it goes. Next up, we have Lost Valley. This was an early Kickstarter game, and it got mixed reviews, but Ryan really wanted to try it, and I don't know, math trade, something, something, something. He gave a bunch of games, and he got this. So, Lost Valley is a game about the gold rush. You are playing kind of Oregon Trail-ish from the description of it, where you have to manage your resources, try to get some money, don't die fording a river. I don't really know. We'll give it a shot. And then we have Paris Connection. This is mostly a train game. You're playing as one of the big movers and shakers trying to get railroads all across France. You start the game with a handful of cards, and these represent your stock options in the different railroad companies. Every round, you have to decide to place railroads across the board, extending the different railroad lines and making the stocks for those railroad companies more valuable. Or you can trade in your stock cards for other ones that are out. So obviously the best business person wins at the end. And it's kind of interesting to see a game that there are actual railroad tokens for, but that it plays more as an economic title. I'm curious to see how it works. This one's a little different. Escape the Room, Mystery at Stargazer's Manor. It's an escape the room game that you play in your own house. So instead of going out to a location where you get locked in a room with some friends and some strangers and have to solve puzzles, you get to get, I guess, locked to your dining room table and get to solve puzzles over dinner. I'm not really sure what this one is about, other than you are trying to escape, I guess, Stargazer's Manor. Part of the fun of these games is discovering the storyline as you go, so I actually try to do as little research on these as I can before I get into them, but I love escape the room games, so we are going to be gathering a party for this very quickly. Luva is a volcano game, which oddly enough is going to be kind of a theme in this video. In Luva, you are settling a brand new island, and the island is so new, in fact, that you're still making it as you're settling it. So each round, you have to lay out lava. The lava can either grow the land mass so that it takes over more and more space, or it can increase the height of the land mass. It can also interfere with your villages. The second part of the round is to build up those villages. You can choose to make new ones or just to increase the size of the ones you had before. A lot of the strategy, it seems like, and of course we haven't played it yet, that's why it's in the hall, but a lot of the strategy, it seems, comes from strategically placing the lava so that it interacts with your villages in a beneficial way and with your opponent's villages negatively. We'll see how this one goes. This is Witches Brew. So in this game, and it's in German, but in this game, you are playing as witches trying to craft and deliver potions. If that sounds a little familiar, it's because the modern game Broom Service is heavily taken from this title. In Witches Brew, though, every round you can put out a brave witch or a cowardly witch. If you put out a brave witch, you essentially could get more resources, you could perform better, but it's riskier because if another player also puts out a brave witch that round, they might be able to take those resources instead of you. If you put out a cowardly witch, you get fewer resources for it, but you're protected from the other players. So a lot of the game is just balancing that risk and reward and seeing what happens. And then we have Jaipur. This game was out of print for a while, but it is coming back. Ryan had wanted to get his hands on it for quite some time, so he was very happy. It's a 2-player card game about becoming the best trader. Every round, you have to decide which cards you want to buy and which cards you want to sell, all while trying to make sure you build your camel herd up to support your fledgling trade industry. Something along those lines. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited to because it's a 2-player card game, but it's not like a tactical warfare simulation game like so many of them. So it's a little bit different, which always makes me a little more excited to get it to the table. Speaking of card games, next up we have Belle of the Ball, a fancy schmancy card game for 2 to 5 players. In this one, you are the host of a fancy schmancy ball, trying to get the best mix of attendees. You have a whole line of potential guests waiting outside, and you have to decide who to invite in and to whom you must give your sincerest regrets. You only have so many regrets to give, though. So every time you give a regret to a potential attendee, they go to someone else's line. If that person accepts them in, that person is able to collect the regret tokens from them, which they can then use to give out to other potential attendees. You see what is going on here? So you really have to be careful about who you invite in and who you don't. And sometimes you have to invite in people that you wouldn't because you need more of those little tokens to balance things. It's very tricksy and the theme is very clever and I like it. That just about wraps up the games that Ryan picked up at Granite Game Summit. So we're going to move on to games that we've just generally acquired over the course of the month. First among those is Pay Dirt. This is another title set in the wintry north. You are building a mining operation, and the whole goal of the game is to build a successful business and optimize it. Games like that, they're called engine building games, where you have to put out a bunch of stuff and try to make it as efficient as possible. I love them. They're very challenging, but there's usually a lot of different strategies that you can take. So every playthrough is a little bit different, at least for a while. I'm curious to see where this falls on the spectrum of good engine building games to bad engine building games, because I honestly haven't heard a whole lot about it. But I'm predisposed to like it based on the fact that it's not about zombies or Cthulhu, and it lets me build things. Next up, we have the Keyflowers. These are both expansions to Keyflower, of course. In Farmers, you can create farms, pretty self-explanatory. You can grow wheat, you can breed animals. I've been told there are sheep in it, which always awesome. In Merchants, you can expand your buildings and buy into contracts. It gives you new options for goods. I honestly am not as enamored with Keyflower as a lot of other people are, but I'm willing to try it again with these expansions to see if they change it positively, in my opinion. But either way, I know it's a game that Ryan loves, and it's a game that a lot of our friends love, so they'll at least be really happy. Next up, we have Mr. Game. So, casual sexism aside, Mr. Game is a title in which The rules are made up, but the points do still matter. The game starts as a roll and move, which doesn't sound very enticing, but the whole point is that the rules are built upon as you play. One player is designated Mr. Game, and whenever anything comes up over the course of the play, which it definitely will because it's designed to, that forces you to ask Mr. Game a question, Mr. Game gets to just decide on the rule that answers that. So it could be all of the players wearing yellow get to move an extra space or something like that. The rules get more and more complex and wackier as the game goes on, and as players try to desperately reach the goal tile, which of course keeps moving. So Mr. Game, it can probably depend a lot on who you're playing with, whether or not this is a fun one. I'm not sure. I'm unconvinced, but I've heard that it is more fun than it initially seems like it would be. So I'll give it a try. That's all I can promise right now. Looting Atlantis is our second lava game of the haul. In this one, you are escaping the falling city of Atlantis. And a big part of that is gathering up all of the super futuristic tech that they've been hoarding. Every round, you have to move the lava, try to gather some tech cards, and then decide at some point that you need to escape to greener, less lava-y pastures. When you decide to escape is really one of the big decisions of the game. If you escape too early, you might not have gathered up as much tech as you could, and therefore you will score fewer points at the end. But if you wait and escape too late, you might have a lot of tech, but you're gonna be resettling in a really, really nasty new world. A lot of the game is balancing those decisions. I'm not always the best at that because I like to gather as much stuff as I possibly can. I tend to favor hoarding all of my stuff when possible. I will try not to do that in this game, but no promises. Last but not least, we have Oh My Gods. This is not to be confused with Oh My Goods, which is another game out now with obviously a very similar name. In Oh My Gods, someone has stolen Zeus's lightning bolt. Another god has taken it, and you have been tasked by Zeus to try to figure out who. This is not a job you want to mess up. To do that, you have a handful of cards that contain different gods and other information. Every round, you're trying to gather information from the other players to deduce which god didn't have an alibi at the time that Zeus's lightning bolt was stolen. If you guess successfully, congratulations. If you guess wrong, you're out. The gameplay's pretty quick though, so the player elimination, I'm not too worried about it. But I can go either way on deduction games in general. I love them in theory, but I often feel like there's a lot of pressure and a lot of like spotlight tension on you when you're playing them. So I can't rule yet on whether or not I'm super, super excited for this one, but I am going to try it and I think I'm going to like it. So that was our May haul. We did pretty well. I mean, a lot of those games were from the Game Summit, so I know Ryan isn't counting them against our limit. I haven't decided yet. I know we don't really have shelf space for them, so but we should. It's a manageable level of games. I think we can get to those in the near future without it being a huge problem. If you like this video and want to see more from us, please like and subscribe down below. We also have our Patreon up and running. If you want to support us, we would love for you to do so over there. Our next goal is to start doing a Game of the Month club, kind of like a book club for games, where we all play the same game and then come on and talk about it with you. I would really love to get that going because I don't have time to join a book club. But if this is like an official thing for the site, then I just have to do a game club. Sorry, homework. Anyway, please leave a comment down below too, telling us any new games that you got in the month of May, and we will see you soon. Bye. Looting Atlantis is our second lava game. Train. That was a train. You are playing as one of the CEO. No, that's not right. This is an early Kickstarter game, and it has admittedly received some very mixed reviews, but Ryan wanted to try it, and Okay. I'm gonna start talking and the train's gonna come back.